the only way to really stand out, and you're going to see this more and more in the future, is people who create content, whether it's videos, images, podcasts, text-based content, showcasing their experience, their expertise, their authority and trust, that little extra thing that makes your content unique that you wouldn't get from AI. Because the way AI creates content is, it scrapes everything that is out there on the internet and it produces something based on the inputs.
Boa tarde. Agora em inglês, né? Guys, my first question is like the elephant in the room, AI. How is AI changing the marketing landscape? Gail,
Going to me? First of all, it is great to be back at the Web Summit and good to see all of you. Question, how is AI changing marketing? In a massive, big way. So that's the short answer. The slightly longer answer is, if you go back to like big changes in society, and there's many of them, and they're happening faster and faster and faster, but go back to the year 1460, and there was, a guy named Gutenberg who created the printing press, and he created this printing press, and before that there were only town criers. After the printing press, there was knowledge, there was scientific exploration, there was literacy. The entire world changed. So I think that's what AI is doing. If you look at AI, it can write for us, it can create images, it can track and surveil, it can create networks of bots, it can change everything that we're doing. And if you look at what marketing is doing now, from creating fun ads with ChatGPT and imaging bots and all of those things. There was one I saw the other day that was for a faux pizza, and it was something like pizza, like family, but with more cheese. So clearly AI has a little bit of ways to go on the creative side. But the other thing that's happening that I think is important for everyone here to know is, given the networks of bots, et cetera, AI is changing corporate narratives. It's out there and creating misinformation that shapes and changes corporate narratives and narratives of companies. So companies like mine are using AI to understand what AI is doing to shape those narratives. And I think that's an important thing for all of us to know. But for sure, massive amount of change to marketing.
FX, would you like to jump on that? What's your perspective on AI?
Well, one precision before. I'm not the president of JCDecaux. I'm just the data officer. Jean-Charles would be offended.
That's big. That's still big.
Well,
still big.
Maybe next time, but not for this one. So, but maybe AI can do miracles for that. Talking about AI, this is a game changer, but it's not starting last month or 6 months before. We've been doing AI for a long time on JCDecaux. It's been like since day one we are using AI. What is being offered now with this new breakthrough from OpenAI or any other players is the capacity to do faster and better what we were doing. So there is a matter of efficiency. And as a data officer, this is what I look first. How can I do my job better and faster? Not cheaper. That's another issue. And it raises also, especially for a marketing company like ours, the question of ethics, the question of compliance. That will be, I believe, at the center of anything going after tech.
Neil, 23 times in Brazil.
23 times, yes.
Amazing. What would you like to share with us about AI?
So I think people are thinking about AI from a mass perspective, in which you can create content at mass scale. It can help automate a lot of things in marketing. But there's a lot of aspects that people aren't paying attention to that are more important. Content is already very cheap to produce. Whether you use AI to produce it or you do it manually, there's not much of a difference. The big thing that we see AI is going to change, there's two main aspects. The first is analytics. When we look at a lot of the global 1,000 companies, and if you look at a lot of the money being spent on marketing, it's ads. There's a lot of inefficiencies with ads. And with changes happening with privacy, whether it's Apple iOS changes or cookieless world, you're going to see data being harder and harder to analyze on what's working and what's not. And the big change that we're already seeing, a trend that you'll see more within the next 12 months with AI is, imagine AI analyzing your analytics in real time and telling you where there's waste right then and there, instead of having humans analyze your spending once a week, once a month. So then it prompts a human, and then from there, a human will tell you, hey, yes, let's stop this, spend here and reallocate the money, or spend more here because it's working. That's one big change we're seeing. The second big change is the landscapes with most of these platforms is going to be a winner-take-all. Here's what I mean by this. Google's releasing something called Project Magi. New York Times broke this. They broke the news on this. So Project Magi is a new version of Google search in which if you search for shoes, instead of Google showing you 10 results, it'll try to figure out what you, JP, or Juan Pedro, or whoever it may be, or, Marcella, it'll say, oh, these are the shoes that we know you'll like, these are the colors, this is the size shoe you wear, here's the shoe you should buy, would you like to buy it? And right then and there on Google, instead of showing you 10 results, it just shows you the shoe that it may think you want to buy. If you like it, you click a button and you buy it right then and there on Google. This will change how you search. This will change also how you do marketing, because it'll be a winner-takes-all landscape in which for SEO, it'll be one or two people taking up all the traffic for each result. For paid ads, it's going to be more performance-based. Instead of you on Facebook or Google being used to paying per impression or per click, you're going to have to get used to a model where you just pay per transaction.
Is it possible to make marketing more personalized nowadays? For the last few years, we are, getting more data, getting more information, but not necessarily getting closer to people, or even telling our story in a more personalized way, or the brand stories actually. So is it possible to use AI to make marketing more personal?
It is. You can use AI to make marketing more personable, but here's the issue that we're seeing. Everyone is on this personalization kick and giving people exactly what they want. We're finding consumers a lot of times don't know exactly what they want, so how can AI end up telling them what they want? And when you get too personalized, we're actually seeing a drop in conversion. Walmart years ago acquired a company to focus on personalization. They had this whole Walmart Labs team, and they were just focusing on personalizing every single recommendation for people who are buying on Walmart, which is an e-commerce company in the United States, and also a retailer in person. And what Walmart saw is when they kept trying to personalize too much, they didn't necessarily see an increase in conversions or revenue. And we're seeing the same thing across the board. When we're working with large corporations or even mid-sized or smaller businesses, when you get too personalized, we're not really seeing much, if any, increase in revenue. It's almost of an overkill.
In fact, we were talking about data, how big companies are using data nowadays. From your perspective, is it possible to make more personalized using AI? What will change?
So if you look at personalization, for years, when I was at Facebook, we were selling this dream, which is I'm using a lot of data, I know a lot about you, so I will be able to have this one-to-one conversation. And now the world has drastically changed, more regulation, more privacy, and more consciousness as citizens of what is being done with data. And I think where AI can play a role, and if we use it correctly, it's being more personalized to create emotions. There is a traditional dive on the performance. I want more clicks, I want the impression that will sell the deal. But maybe there is a comeback around the emotion and the capacity to deliver the right feeling at the right moment, at the right place, and coming back to something more contextualized. And I think that location might be the new cookie to some extent, knowing exactly what is happening in a neighborhood, in a street, capturing the atmosphere, and making sure that AI helps us adapting content, adapting messaging to the right audience, without getting into the nitty-gritty of this specific one-to-one conversation.
I think one of the things to think about with personalization, and all what my fellow panelists have mentioned being true, but if you take marketing to a different level and think about public health and information and the good of public health, yes, we're going to have the ability to aggregate all the data, and at the same time understand an individual, my habits, where I go, what I do, when I'm doing it, etc. And with AI, add data on my DNA to ultimately look at preventive health very, very differently. That could be a very frightening thing, or it could be an extraordinary thing that will frankly change society as well. So I think that it's interesting to look at it in that way.
AI definitely it's something booming right now, but what kind of other trends do you see coming in marketing or things that we should be aware as marketeers working with marketing right now? And I guess we can start with FX.
I think, well, depending on your position, of the position of the company, I would say the trends we are looking at, there is a main one, which is democratization. What AI can help us doing better and faster and getting away from this specialization. Think about using natural language to do data analytics. If we can populate capacities to audiences, especially in companies where this was restricted to 20 people as data, whatever, that would change, democratize, and really transform a company into data-driven companies. And I think there is a massive trend on that one. And the other one for us, it's anticipating how AI will be transformative for us. We used to create content with art director. We used to have like massive session of brainstorming to have the right ads with the right wording, the right font. And from one day to another, everybody can become an art director. And you need to find the right balance between leveraging AI for what it delivers and also giving back to Caesar what is belonging to Caesar. Being an art director is a specific job, and AI cannot replace it. So there is the internal transformation of the companies and just the repacing a little bit our general industry in marketing.
Gail, big trends.
Yeah, you know, I feel like this onus because I'm the only not tech guy on the panel here. But I think there's a trend towards humanity and humanness. If you look at what the world has been through over the last 3 or 4 years and you look at the collision of crises we've lived for, I say this as a marketer, that going back to the essence of what is human, going back to values, going back to understanding values and using that as the foundation. When I think about it as it relates to AI, remember there are people training the machines. So speaking human to the machines, making sure the people training the machines are representative of the world we live in as best we can. But I think the big trend is human, keeping human in the face of the most human-like technology we've ever seen.
A trend that I see, and Google calls this EAT. EAT. It stands for expertise, authority, and trust. So what we're having right now is people pushing out a ton of content, whether it's on social media, whether you're using Midjourney, or whether you're using OpenAI, like ChatGPT, to end up creating content. What's happening is everyone is starting to create the same stuff, and everything is looking like the same thing. So you guys may have seen a book or a poster called Where's Waldo? It's really, really old, but you would have to spot a guy out in a crowd like this wearing a t-shirt with white and red stripes. But now everyone looks like Waldo. Everyone is wearing the same shirt, everyone's using the same technology. The only way to really stand out, and you're going to see this more and more in the future, is people who create content, whether it's videos, images, podcasts, text-based content, showcasing their experience, their expertise, their authority and trust, that little extra thing that makes your content unique that you wouldn't get from AI. Because the way AI creates content is, it scrapes everything that is out there on the internet and it produces something based on the inputs. The only way to really stand out is talk about something unique that others aren't talking about. That's what will start spreading. That's this kind of stuff that people will want to see. And this is nothing new. Matt Cutts, an ex-engineer from Google, around 10 years ago, he said something around 20 to 30% of the content on the internet is duplicate. Now you're going to see those ratios just jump up. So unless you do something that's unique, you're not going to stand out and you're not going to do well in marketing.
Yeah, as you said, technology is getting more accessible, but something like social media, for example, that everybody uses nowadays, or at least most part are using, how social media specifically will change for marketing in the next few years. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so social media, what we're seeing right now is everyone using tools like Midjourney to create content. You can even do video-based content using like deepfake technology where you can replicate a human and create content. The Weeknd and Drake did a song together created by AI. It wasn't actually them creating content. And it started spreading crazy on TikTok and all these social platforms. What you're having these days as an issue with social media is people want to see content that's authentic. They are getting tired. We're already seeing this. We ran a survey recently, and we surveyed a little bit more than 11,000 people on social media, and their biggest pet peeve with content on social media was it's no longer personal. You know, as she mentioned earlier, humanizing things.
Thanks.
We're getting away from humanizing things, and people want that human element. People don't want faceless companies anymore. They want humanized companies. If you look at Rihanna, she did well from Fenty because there's a person beyond it. LeBron James, whether it's Neymar or Ronaldo or any of these, you know, Kardashians like Kylie Jenner, people want companies and marketing to be more humanized.
You know, I wondered whether we could get through this without mentioning the Kardashians, but we have not. But, when you think about social media, and I think it's an important thing to think about, it's kind of changed, and TikTok changed it, right? Social media was about how big is your social graph. Take the Kardashians, for example. So therefore, we want to, have the Kardashians be partners, be with us, etc. We want to go to the places and spaces and people with the biggest social graphs. TikTok made it about recommendation, right? The algorithms recommended what we're looking at. If I like dog videos, it recommends dog stuff and stuff that's, adjacent to dog stuff. So that gets to what Neil was talking about. In the world of recommendation media, the creator is key, the content is key, the authenticity, the humanness, the uniqueness, all of those things have gotten that much more important because it's not just pushing from the top into massive social graphs. It really is about the compelling quality of the content.
But Gail, you are well known for helping big companies, large companies to tell their stories. And what is the main challenge for brands, big companies, brands, and even in a personal level, we are telling stories in social media everywhere.
Yeah.
What is the main challenge for those companies right now?
Well, the challenge for brands is, what is it I'm trying to communicate? What is it I'm trying to solve? Knowing that, immediately, then using technology, using data to get to the right places, and putting out the resources to make the kind of content and tell the stories in a way that make a real difference. And I think that's always the sort of holy grail for brands. You can get out there with stuff that's meh, but really understanding where you're going using data and technology, and then making the kind of content that moves people, or taking an action that moves people. So there's a number of challenges.
FX, we were talking about the market, some markets going better than others, but one thing that everywhere, I guess, it's how TikTok is growing fast, and a lot of money from ads are moving for TikTok. What's your take on TikTok? But even who is the next TikTok in terms of growth or something like that?
If I knew, I would invest in right now. No, I was making myself, was having a thought about what you were saying about social media, and I remember what I truly loved when Facebook emerged. It was things were true. You were true about yourself. It was your right birth date, your real name, and pictures from your family and your friend. Yeah. And 2 years later, I was having like 600 people in my circle, and actually I would have beer with like 10 of them. And I felt a bit disconnected. And I think, coming back to your question about brands, the difficulty for brands today is they need to be authentic, they need to be protective, they need to be cheap, they need to be meaningful, and it's like a never-ending list, but they need to find what is their true value, and sometimes go back to what they really are and what they are meant for. But coming back to the next TikTok, honestly, I don't know. I absolutely don't know. There is one thing that we overlook from our, I would say, Western point of view, is everything coming from this world. And China is not even emerging. They are as fast as the Western world, and AI will blow up there. There are so many things happening here, and social will also get bigger and bigger. So the question is, where would be the next TikTok? There would be one way or another, but I'm not sure it would be American or Brazilian or Chinese. But it can pop up everywhere, and AI will definitely play a role into that.
Is it possible to optimize or SEO is engine optimization, and TikTok, for example, uses an algorithm that you can optimize in some. But is it possible to optimize the performance on TikTok, for example?
It is. So you can optimize to get more visibility. For example, TikTok is a popular place to search. A Google SVP said when younger people are looking to search for a place to eat, nowadays they're turning to Instagram or TikTok to go. And if you look at TikTok, they actually have ads in their search. So the way you optimize for TikTok is through things like, are you using the right keywords within your video? They're able to detect what your video is about. It's not just your descriptions or tags. In addition to that, they're looking heavily at comments. What are the comments saying, and how engaging are the comments, and how are people reacting to them? So if the comments create more of an engaging conversation, your videos start getting shown more on TikTok versus not. So you want to create content that actually helps encourage comments, and comments that are thought-provoking. Not comments like, I agree, or yes, or no. They want people to leave comments that are combative, they're also very thoughtful. For example, I did a TikTok video on how podcasting, blogging is saturated, blogging is not. And I broke down a stat on how there's more than 1 billion blogs and less than 10 million podcasts. People started leaving comments saying, no, there's more podcasts than blogs. Although that's not true, it didn't matter because it started creating a lot of engagement within the comments. It caused the video to spread. That's what I mean, in which one of TikTok's big portions to their algorithm or main components is the engagements from a comment perspective. It's easy for someone to like something. It's hard for someone to take the time to leave a very detailed comment.
Gail, what do you think about the landscape for TikTok? And because it is hard to follow the stories going in multiple stories, many tracks.
For sure, TikTok changed everything. And to your question, like what is next? I absolutely don't have the answer. However, there's 3 billion plus of the world's population is gaming, right? And clearly marketers have not lost sight of that. Marketers are a part of the gaming world. But if I look at Fortnite or Roblox or whatever, how else should we be there? What else should we be thinking? I think there's a huge opportunity. The other thing is perhaps the sort of fusion of platforms. If you look at what happened with The Last of Us, began life as a video game, moved into the streaming world. Are we looking at a new world of interspecies collision of platforms? And what should we do in marketing to further that, or perhaps leverage that in a bigger or better way to get to those 3 billion people whose eyeballs are sitting in the gaming world? To me, there's maybe some post-TikTok something in there.
The world is changing very fast, and we have right now seismic events, global events, Ukraine war, and COVID. How do you react to such big events? What can we do to position ourselves and our brands in this kind of environment nowadays? FX, if you could go.
I didn't hear the question.
Sorry, I will. Can you hear now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. Sorry, guys. It's hard to hear the feedback from our own sound. That's why it's hard sometimes to understand. Yeah. So, moving on. So, right now we have Ukraine, Russia, many problems going around the world, and how brands should be positioned, or what can we do from a marketing perspective to navigate this challenging world?
Once again, if I had the solution, I would tell you right now. Now, there is, so I'm having another speech in the afternoon, and I'm mentioning one book from Nassim Taleb called The Black Swan. And his book is about low predictability and high impact. And this book is really tremendous for many reasons, but this one is explained. And what we do with tech and data, it's not giving answers, it's being prepared for any type of scenarios. And what I learned from the last 3-4 years is that whatever you do, you need to be prepared. It can be a war, it can be a pandemic, it could be, I don't know what next shit will come, or next good news, but we need to be prepared.
Guys, I would like to say sorry to everybody. We are out of time. Thank you very much. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.